Hello, my name is Kirk, and thank you for viewing this presentation. In the next few minutes, I will attempt to debunk the long-held belief that video games are detrimental to a person's well-being. I will do this by examining some ethical concerns that have plagued the multi-billion-dollar video game industry from the early days of this form of media. These long-held beliefs include that violent video games desensitize gamers to violence, make frequent gamers less social due to isolation, help foster addictive habits, interfere with a person's ability to maintain focus and pay attention, and that they are useless outside the realm of entertainment for children. Violent video games are said to be destructive based on the belief that they desensitize gamers to violence in the real world. The main crux of this belief is that violent video games often reward players for negative behavior. One such video game of the genre, Mortal Kombat, pushed the envelope to the point that the Entertainment Software Rating Board was created specifically to keep games like Mortal Kombat out of the reach of minors. Video games, however, are plainly not the issue. Games like Mortal Kombat are distributed globally, yet the United States has an exponentially higher level of gun violence than any of the other studied nations. Children and young adults do have the capacity to distinguish between in-game violence and real-world consequences. Video games are just going through the same growing pains that formats like movies and the internet tackled during their growth to becoming mainstream. To continue, another widely held belief states that gamers who play over 18 hours a week become socially inept and even antisocial. This claim is based solely on the idea that time spent playing games could be spent going out with friends or interacting with family. This does not place the burden of proof on games, but rather any activity that consumes large amounts of time. One could even argue that video games improve social skills, as many modern games allow players to connect, play, and share with other players around the world to accomplish a common goal that helps to build teamwork and leadership skills. In addition, a study in the Journal of Computer-Mediated Communications shows that the stereotypical player being a loner is the outlier and not the norm. Video games are becoming more and more the face of the average global citizen. Players are not necessarily males in their basements left alone for hours on end. What's more, according to Engadget, gaming systems like the Wii from video game giant Nintendo are focusing their time on bringing the entire family into the experience. Nothing is farther from antisocial than a family on their feet acting out their characters' moves with gestures with the whole family watching or even joining in. Moving on, video games are also said to be addictive. The American Psychiatric Association has considered adding gaming disorder in its catalog of mental diseases along with drugs and alcohol addiction. According to Christopher J. Ferguson of the New York Times, these areas of the brain, those that produce and respond to the neurotransmitter dopamine, are involved in just about any pleasurable activity. Also, according to Ferguson, methamphetamines can cause a level of dopamine release 10 times that or more on its own. The fact that pleasurable activities involve dopamine release tell us nothing else about it. Another approach used by those seeking to support the argument that video games are addicting tend to classify children playing those games on risk factors they find to correlate with this claim. They say, first, video games are affecting those that have lack of success or experience in real life, low parental support, high video game use by parents, divorce and separation, behavioral problems or problems at school, truancy from class, school phobia, poor grades, or repeating a grade. All are avenues for children to envelop themselves in video games in an unhealthy way, but they miss the overwhelming point. Addiction is not a qualitative measure, it is a psychological disorder marked by changes in the chemistry of that person that can be isolated. Another argument is that video games are just flat out useless. On the contrary, video games are actually effective at teaching logic and problem-solving skills. This can be modified and used in education, for instance. Let's take a look at a live demonstration showing how video games can improve one's ability to focus and comprehend a simple problem. Feel free to take part in the exercise.
One aspect of attention which is also improved for the better is our ability to track objects around in the world. This is something we use all the time. When you're driving, you're keeping track of the cars around you. You're also keeping track of the pedestrian, the running dog, and that's how you can actually be safe driving, right? In the lab, we get people to come to the lab, sit in front of a computer screen, and we give them the little task that I'm going to get you to do again. You're going to see yellow happy faces and a few sad blue faces. These are children in the schoolyard in Geneva during recess, during the winter. Most kids are happy, it's actually recess, but a few kids are sad and blue because they've forgotten their coat. Everybody begins to move around, and your task is to keep track of who had a coat at the beginning and who didn't. So I'm just going to show you an example where there is only one sad kid. It's easy because you can actually track it with your eyes. You can track, and then when it stops and there's a question mark and I ask you, did this kid had a coat or not? Was it yellow initially or blue? I hear a few yellow, good, so most of you have a brain. I'm now going to ask you to do the task, but now with a little more challenging task. There are going to be 3 of them that are blue. Don't move your eyes, please don't move your eyes. Keep your eyes fixated and expand, pull your attention. That's the only way you can actually do it. If you move your eyes, you're doomed. Yellow or blue? Good. So your typical, normal, young adult can have a span of about 3 or 4 objects of attention. That's what we just did. Your action video game player has a span of about 6 to 7 objects of attention, which is what is shown in this video here. That's for you guys, action video game player. They're more challenging, right? Yellow or blue? Blue. We have some people that are serious out there, yeah. Good.
What we just saw is a demonstration of how video games can improve one's ability to track objects in real time. This is just one application that could affect how well someone drives, for instance. Video gamers also enjoy more acute eyesight and the ability to discern between levels of gray much more effectively than someone who doesn't. Imagine driving down the highway on a foggy Monday morning. A driver in front of you slams on the brakes. Now you have a decision to make. Do I stop or do I navigate out of the way? Or do I even have the time to make that decision? A gamer with more acute eyesight, the ability to discern between different levels of gray and to track multiple things in his field of vision will have a much easier time making that decision. In conclusion, video games aren't a bad thing. They don't desensitize us to violence in the real world, and they certainly don't reward negative behavior. Video games also don't make people less social. They don't do so any more than any other activity would if done in excess. Actually, to the contrary, video games like Call of Duty and World of Warcraft have massive online communities where people congregate and play together. Video games don't form addictive habits any more than a slice of pizza would. They don't interfere with your ability to pay attention and focus, and to the contrary, they actually can act as an effective teaching tool for logic and problem solving. Thank you.